have just got through watching the premiere film, Pancakes and Syrup. These are two first-time filmmakers, so we're gonna start the Q&A with.
I heard that you said, when you spoke earlier, that you were a comedian outside of being a filmmaker.
Yes.
What was it like doing that in the film? What you do as your bread and butter, your favorite thing to do, but now transposed onto the character? What was it like to, did you feel like you approached those things a little bit different how you would in real life?
She's asking him, what was it like doing comedy? They're saying they can't hear.
They can hear it in the back.
What was it like doing what he does in real life on film as far as stand-up comedy?
Yeah, and transposing that onto the character. How did you feel like it wasn't the same or was it different?
It was quite different because he's a bit of a dick, excuse me. So it's harder because, you know, I'm a very friendly person, so when I do shows, I'm very accessible. And then throughout watching him, he's not a very nice guy. So like, it's my material, like my own personal material. So like that set was what I do.
Yeah.
But that's a great question. I appreciate that because it's a little different because you're doing it, but yet you're doing it as the character. And even the crew was wonderful. They were young and fun and really great at what they did. And every time we finished a scene, they would always be like, "You're such an asshole," like my character, you know. And then I'm like, "I know," and it's like it's fun playing a bad guy in a way.
It was important for us for it to be a real set on a real night in a real club. And it went great.
Yes.
What gave you the inspiration?
Not his fault,
That's okay.
Okay, that's fine.
No, go on.
please.
What gave you the inspiration to do this?
I have no idea. I wanted to make a movie since I'm a kid. I would watch movies when I was 10 years old and think in ways probably most 10-year-olds don't wonder, is that a real city street? Is that fake? Is it a set? Are they really shooting guns? And so I told Tom I'm going to write a screenplay, and he said, well, I'd like to be involved with that. So I always say this in interviews. If you have a best friend, if you want to really know if you're best friends, do a feature film from soup to nuts. And if you're best friends afterwards, it turned out okay. So we're both stand-up comedians, we're both actors. That was reachable for, we could access that to write a screenplay about it. And we went through a lot of rewrites. We wrote a horrible 20 funny things next to each other screenplay to start with and gave it to a friend of ours to look at who's a writer. He said, this is really good if you want 20 funny things. But add some like human stuff in there. But the inspiration was always wanted to make a movie. Thanks.
Now, I know you had.
So early in the second act, there's this like great scene. It's like unbroken because of the camera shot. You guys are talking about it's the scene that ends with you saying that you would also had an alcoholic father. I thought that scene was great because it goes to like the whole. It's like a short film in the movie because it goes to its own 3-act structure. What was the process of writing such a long scene and then rehearsing as the actors in it a long scene that just flows and you can't break? Because all I was thinking when watching it was at first I was like, this is a great scene, and then when I thought about it by the next scene, I was like, this was just all one thing. They had to rehearse it and do it like that. Like, what was it like from both ends, from production to production?
Well, we started writing this in 2011. Okay? That scene, most of the way it ended up in the film, we had written a lot of that. So we kind of had it in us. We actually, real quick, back then I said, you know, before we do this, I want to know, we got to know we got chemistry on camera. We're friends, but that doesn't, we did a gig in PA, a real life stand-up gig together. I brought my home camera and a suction mount, and I set it up, and we shot that scene, and that's the scene that I said, okay, we can do this. But it was, it really didn't take us that very long to write the scene. You know, we know.
And what was interesting about we did it, it was like 95 degrees when we did that, so we kept having to like try to stay dry and like, you know what it's like, it's weird, and it's like, then there's a leaf blower going, because it wasn't a studio, we were literally driving. So it was so much interference from other things. It was the middle of the day. And then toward the end of the probably 2.5 hours we drove around with the crew following us in a car, you know, we ended up where Rob and the cinematographer, they kept that one, we ended up doing it without an edit, or we just did it straight through without, screwing it up.
We had the tray camera, we had the other angles shot, but
But they decided to just use that one because we did that, it's almost 7.5 minutes, and it was just one.
Would have broken it.
Yeah, we didn't, yeah. Why, maybe, yeah, I mean, it felt cool to see it, that it was just 7.5 minutes, because we both come from theater, kind of, so we're used to like, know all your lines, rather than just like, because a lot of actors will go like, hey, the other, line, they don't get far, so we were just accustomed to studying.
One take?
That was one take, yes. Yeah.
Along those lines, how much did you stick to the script and how much did you improvise within the movie itself?
very little. Words here and there, a word here or there.
Yeah, very, very, very close to the script, because if you shoot something and then you improv it, and then you shoot it from another angle and you improv it differently, and when you do that 5 different times, you have nothing to choose from, because it just becomes a mess,
Yes.
What is something, having now done your first feature film and the rest of you guys made it, that you made it, so I've been doing film for too long, I don't know how to project anymore. What is something that you know now, having been done with it, premiering it, that you wish you knew either when you started filming it? What's something that you know now that you wish you knew? Could be about yourself, about performance, about directing, about writing.
Shit's harder than we thought it was. Really hard.
That could be a T-shirt. Shit's harder than.
Shit's harder than we thought it was. Yeah, that's a T-shirt.
We went in. We did go in very prepared. I mean, did you mention? Somebody mentioned master classes before. Yes, you. I spent a year and a half watching all the directors I admire. I read all the books. We didn't know I was going to be directing it yet. So, in a way, we became very prepared, but what do I wish that we knew? I wish that we knew it's a lot less work if you have money to hire a casting agency. 44 characters.
Also, I think if you make a film, pay attention to red flags. Like if you go to, we had a particular site that we had where we had a location. And when you say to someone like, hey, we want to know when we can do a 5-minute scene between the 8th and the 11th, and they get back to you and they say, how about the 29th? That's a red flag. Then because you want it so badly, you kind of go, oh, by the way, you had the date wrong. And then you go through that, but then really you should just be like, like you should just go like, this person's not gonna, they're not really listening, or they're not gonna be all that cooperative, and you should find another location, like obey red flags,
Yes.
When you write a character that's close to you or your profession, did you find it cathartic at all? Did you find it therapeutic at all? Or was it just business and those are the characters and that's where they reside in fantasy, so to speak? Or was it something exploratory for yourself as a person and more importantly as a performer?
It was a really good acting exercise. I mean, we obviously kept it close to ourselves. The character's Rob and Tom. We're Rob and Tom. We're actors and comedians. They're actors and comedians. But it was really it was challenging acting work, even though, because there's, as so many people in this room know, there's 100 different things to consider shooting 2 minutes of a movie. So I learned a lot. I learned about building, you know what I mean, for a 90-minute script, and we're shooting everything out of order. That part of acting I hadn't really had a lot of experience with, and I learned a lot about that.
Yeah, I mean, just the scene that I did when I spoke to my mom, or talking about my own father, a lot of these things were somewhat exaggerated, but close to who we are. So any time a scene is that emotional, I mean, every time I watch it, I get a little emotional, because it's like, it's so close to who, my life, so it affects me. But thank you.
Yes.
You had said that you started writing in 2011. I'm just curious, from start to finish, as far as just the filming, how long did it take?
The actual shooting of the film?
Shooting of the...
16 days. We had a fantastic assistant director. Awesome.
Brilliant.
Because of her, and our cinematographer had done work for Hallmark, and way back when, he said, you know, Rob, all those Hallmark films, every one of them, 15 days. So that gave me hope, and yeah, 16 days. We couldn't afford 18 days.
I don't think we could have afforded 16 and a half, I swear. Yeah.
Have you considered getting some SAG cards?
We've got them. We have SAG cards. Yeah. We went total indie with this, just because, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that consideration. Yeah, yes.
No, I'm curious, what would you say was perhaps your biggest challenge in putting together the film, or just from the whole process, you know, what did you find the most challenging about it?
There were locations. I mean, we wound up with fantastic. With locations that fell through, every one of them, we wound up with better locations. The scene where I go visit my dad and the audition scene, it was the second floor of a warehouse. Tom knew somebody. It was empty. They hadn't used it. So we went in a week, 2 weeks before, wiped down all the walls. We put all the set dressing in there and all the props. So that.
Built a bedroom.
Yeah, got a bed on Amazon.
All that stuff.
A lot of work. Worth it, though.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And it was fun looking up for, when they were in the day room, when my father was in the hospital, I looked up, like, what's a public domain movie? The first one that came up was Night of the Living Dead. I was like, yes. So that's the film that you hear when they're sitting there.
But it's an independent film, so we would be shooting, and then the high-lows would beep, beep,
Yeah,
beep.
in the warehouse.
And we're like, cut, hold sound, you know. So it was a lot of challenges. And anybody here that's done this, I mean, you know, it's like, in one day, you'll cry and laugh and freak out and want to run away and hide and want to quit and want to do 10 more movies, but you're still freaking out. It's just bizarre. It's a weird feeling. You know, it's fun.
This was interesting. We haven't sat in a room.
Never.
With people and watched it.
My hands are freezing. I was so nervous about this whole process. And then I can get up in front of 2,000 people and tell jokes and not be as nervous as I am right now with you guys staring at me.
As far as casting, how do you go about it? I put something out there. I know there's some people that
You
you
know.
know, and I
Right.
know.
Yeah, we know.
But,
Yes.
everybody else, were they friends, were they just acquaintances, were they, or did you put out a casting?
Things were still a little COVID-y at that point, and we put it backstage, and we auditioned people on Zoom. And we did, we did a lot of auditions, and people popped out, and it's interesting. That's all I can say, it's interesting. And we put a lot of work into it. You know, like I said, 44 characters, I'm never doing that again.
When are you doing the sequel?
Yeah, I know, yeah.
God. It's gonna be two guys like in a pizzeria if we do a sequel, because when you.
Maybe it could be waffles.
The waffles, yeah.
Yes, yeah, Waffle House, you probably can't do. It's interesting though, because we didn't realize until after we had to hire like 44, you said, right? You don't realize that you're traveling. So everyone you meet, you only get to hang out with them like once, and then you have to hire. So, you know, if you're doing a show about a local pizzeria, say, right? It's the same 8 people, you get them together, you work, you do the thing, and it's done. But this way, it's like so many people involved.
Also, actors, not many actors having to bow out, especially after you've shot some with them. That was challenging.
That's crappy, yeah. That could be rough. Yes, thank you.
What's kind of the vision for the future for y'all? Are you wanting to keep doing festival runs, or what's kind of the plan?
Big thing for me was, and is, I want as many people as possible to be able to sit in a room and see it on a big screen before it ends up here. Everything ends up here anyway, which is fine. But really, that's the immediate thing. Just as many people can see, we submitted to a lot of festivals. Thank you so much.
Yes, yes.
You know, and we're gonna submit to a lot more festivals. We're actually hosting a screening back on Long Island for a lot of people. 'Cause that's where I grew up. It's gonna be very weird for me. People I played Little League Baseball to people I know like now in my life in recovery, and everybody in between.
When's that gonna take place?
Sunday.
This Sunday? This Sunday?
On Long Island, thank you, yeah. So far, it's about 180 people or so, so it's nice.
We can take one last question.
Just because the chemistry, so I know you're friends, but how long have you known each other? Is there some really good chemistry, the flow?
Since the 90s.
Since
right?
the nineties,
Yeah.
we both went to the same, we went to HB Studio in Manhattan to study acting. We met each other there, and then I knew Tom was a stand-up comedian. I told him, I wanna try that, and then we became, through that. When you do a lot of road gigs with somebody, you either end up really good friends or really not.
Right, and then make a movie together. It's like we're sitting next to each, we're in the same building, that means we're always gonna be friends. Right? And you know, it's interesting, I mean, I just wanna say one last thing, I'm sorry, I know you're in a hurry. The interesting thing that we both agreed on was that we wanted the set and we wanted everything to be fun for everyone. We didn't wanna have those like whisper fights off on the side and you make everything uncomfortable, you know, where people will be like, so you don't want, because it leaches out into everyone in the room. And we always wanted to keep it positive and keep it fun. That was a goal of ours, and we kind of succeeded.
Well, let's have
Thank
a big
you.
hand.
Thank you. Thank you. I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. I appreciate all of it. Thank you.